back then, folks, for Empower Online, and it's been a little bit of a while, but I thought I'll reintroduce the podcast because it is a cool way for me to chat to awesome people, and it keeps me out of trouble. And we've got a great little one to kickstart it back off with Ian Gauldie, a good friend of mine, training partner at MKG events, and he runs Combat Academy. UK has about 600 students, I think, although I'm pretty sure I asked him a few days ago about that, and it's probably like 700 students now. So, he teaches a mixture of kickboxing, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, Japanese jiu-jitsu, Filipino martial arts. He's got a rich and varied history in the martial arts that I'm sure we'll get into. And he's, in general, a pretty top bloke. We've just been chatting for about 50 minutes so far before I've even hit record. And I'm pretty sure I can ask Ian one question and sit back, drink my coffee, and he will go for it. Like, so, Ian, thank you very much for being the first one back on to the Empower Online podcast, where obviously we try and get some inspiration from top martial artists in the UK and abroad as well, get their influences, kind of get some history about what they're doing, and then some insights as well as to what makes it successful school, what makes it successful martial artists, etc. And yeah, I think you're one of the top guys, definitely in the UK, if not Europe and the world as well. So it's great to have you on. Where did it all begin for you? It's easiest to go back to the start, isn't it? Back in 1873 when you first started.
I guess it is. You know, well, first of all, thanks for having me down. It's an honour to have a chat with you, brother. Yeah, do you know what's a long time? In fact, March the 23rd this year is going to be my 50th my 50th year on a mat.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, I where did it all begin? I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it's Bruce Lee, because I'm that sort of age group. I was born in 1968. Cut that bit out though, okay. Well, I was born in 68, and I think sort of up to the sort of 70, 74, when I was about 6, 7. I can remember being sort of obsessed with the whole. Who wasn't? You know what I mean? Who isn't still? You know, obsessed
Kung
with the
Fu
whole
craze.
Bruce Lee thing, and
yeah,
exactly, yeah. And I remember having two passions as a child. One was martial arts, Bruce Lee, and the other one was aeroplanes.
Okay.
And I used to be fascinated with aeroplanes, and I think my mum maybe had some sort of idea that I might end up to be a pilot. Didn't work out well.
Yeah, left field on that one.
I'd like to have listened at school for that. So yeah, 7th birthday, I went to Heathrow Airport to watch the planes take off and land because I was fascinated by it. My parents took me. And a couple of days later, they took me along to a judo school. I think it was somewhere near a very large factory in London, just on the M3 there, the Gresham Lion. There was a big engineering company. I went and did my first judo class a couple of days after my 7th birthday. Here I am.
And here we are, 50 years later.
I haven't had a time in my life, you know, maybe barring some short periods, where I haven't done one martial art or another to some degree or another, including boxing as well. But I just really haven't been off a mat since. But it goes quick, you know. The time goes quickly. And like you say, really, I've always had this sort of varied approach to martial arts because that's always been my education, and still is. I still go to classes now because I think that's a very important thing to do, even as a teacher, to remain forever a student.
100%.
And so I mean, it was kind of funny. Like you mentioned the school there. We do have a very busy and successful school. Just want to shout out to some of the people that helped me. Okay, we have a lovely lady called Jane White and Alan Freeman, and all of my coaches and instructors that help out within the structure. I'm really completely lost without them, and we do swell to numbers around about the sort of 600 mark before we clean databases. It feels like a lot more, but we're very, very busy, and without those guys and my family and everything, it really wouldn't be possible to do it. Saturday, when we had our last grading on Saturday just gone, it was just an absolute sea of people. It was a bit of a shocker.
Amazing.
So I've always had that sort of varied approach, and I think what makes a success of the passion that we all have. I think that's a sort of varied combination, really. But certainly, one of the elements of that combination of success is variety. I think being
Yeah,
able to show people different styles, different. And I'm not professing to be some high level, BJJ guy. I never have been.
right.
I'm not professing to be, very. Although I'm obviously senior ranked in the Japanese system, but
Yeah,
I use all of these styles and systems as sort of attributes for development and interesting classes.
yeah,
Very
exactly.
often I'll focus on something. I was training with Mark Tucker,
Yeah.
the legend that is Mark Tucker, a couple of weeks ago, and I'm forever, sort of learning and bringing that back to the tribe, really.
Yeah, well, that's the way. I think that's the way to do it nowadays. With the kind of popular or the popularity of MMA and things like that. Like mixed systems are becoming way more kind of popular, and people are saying that cross training is kind of the way forward, isn't it? If you've got a little bit of groundwork, a little bit of striking, a little bit of weapons work, a little bit of self defense, awareness, soft skills, etc., you've got a
Yeah,
well-rounded martial art or a well-rounded system that
yeah.
people
Well,
can
exactly.
enjoy.
Why not? I mean, there's an old saying, isn't there? If all you've got in your pocket is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, and that's very
Yeah,
true.
exactly.
But certainly, even from a commercial point of view,
Yeah,
being able to say to people that and I mean, doing that in a way that's paying respect to those arts, because
yeah,
what you don't want to do is, pop along to in my opinion, anyways, pop along to a weekend course and then say you're teaching Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
yeah. Of
You
course.
don't, you don't do that.
No.
You've got to do your time. You've got to learn, learn from high level people. And you've got to do your time, and then you need to be respectful to that art and respectful to those systems. To say, look, I'm bringing that into my system in one way or another. I think we talked about Paul McCarthy there,
Yeah.
Paul, who is the innovator of the cognitive Kali system, which is brilliant.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Paul was a student of mine in Slough. The years go past, but I think it was sort of 90s. He was a teenager.
Sure.
I wasn't much older, of course,
Of
myself.
course. No. Yeah. That's same age. Yeah.
And Paul went over to LA, and he's the director of the martial arts development program at UCLA. He's
He
had
is.
me
Yeah.
over a couple of times, which is great. And with Paul's guidance, I've done some cognitive Kali, and although not to sort of instructorship level with him, although you can do that, so contact Paul McCarthy for details there.
Definitely. Yeah.
But we brought a little bit of cognitive Kali with his permission into our Kali system. So yeah, like I said, I'm always purposely looking to see, how does these experiences that I have, how can I get that to fit into my teaching, which I think is an important thing to do, because it keeps me forever the student as well. And
Yeah.
I think
Definitely.
definitely we're 35 years now. We've our club
Yeah.
opened in 1989, and I think one of the elements of success is definitely the variety that we offer people, for sure.
Did it start like that? So did you start with that variety, or did you start teaching a specific style and then it kind of branched off from that?
No, I
And
was with
developed-
when I
developed?
was in my 20s. I trained with Brian Dossett for quite a significant period of time. He had quite a big influence, and God love him. I know he's going to watch this, and I know that I'm sure everybody's aware, but he's just hit his 85th birthday.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say, to Grandmaster Brian, a very happy birthday with that.
Amazing.
And well, Brian had the same sort of approach in terms that he very much with an Aikido jiu-jitsu mix. So I guess so, yeah. I guess so. It was just martial arts. I told my kids last night, another one of my stories, that I think one of the influences looking back was that my dad was a royalty protection officer.
Hmm.
So the reason that I live in a small village called Binfield, which is about sort of 7 or 8 miles from Windsor. And the reason I'm here is that my family moved to Windsor because my dad worked at Windsor Castle.
Right.
And he was an armed unit, and he was with a variety of sort of members of the royal family. So we sort of moved for his work. And I don't know. I mean, my dad was never a sort of instigator of, getting into martial arts, but he certainly wanted that. He certainly wanted me to train in well, he would have had to, because he would have had to driven me all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that sort of, with my dad's sort of military background, I think that was an influence. But sort of moving around and when we moved to Windsor. I was training with Brian at the time, and it was a few train journeys and bus journeys. It was quite a distance.
Yeah,
So I was picking up other arts, and as I say, I can't honestly see a time when I've not done one form of martial arts or another. And I certainly can't predict a time in my future life when I ever wouldn't do it.
sure.
And that's really how I met, great people like yourself and the MKG family and Guru Rick Fay and others.
Yeah,
Because in, I think it was 2015, I did a little bit of work with Guru Bob Etheridge back in the 90s with Modern Arnis, but I picked up a stick, again in about 2015.
yeah.
And then, I've gone down that route with Paul and then with the MKG, and I travelled to LA to train under Guru Dan. As I say, I'm still training weekly with Guru Steve Martin, who's awesome. I just keep doing it, and the years have passed, and here I am. Here I am.
Yeah, perfect. I think it's so important nowadays. Like, I think you're a great example of this, of kind of giving credit to your teachers and kind of going, look, as you said, I've not done a weekend course of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or of Kali or something like that, and now I'm implementing the system. But I think being honest and kind of going, look, I did this weekend course. Let's give it a go.
Yeah.
Right, let's have a bit of fun and see where we're at. I'm not a professor. I'm not a black belt. I'm not a blue belt. I'm not whatever. But going, guys, let's have a little bit of fun. Let's experiment around a little bit. Let's see.
That's right. And I think your students want to see you out and about. I mean, you and I have done, some training together, haven't we, in Italy and places like that?
Yeah.
And yet, your students want to see that you're still learning and you're still growing and developing.
Yeah, it's a huge thing at our academy, just saying, never stop learning. Even if you're an instructor, I always encourage our instructors to kind of keep going, keep learning from other people. We get guests in, things like that have got a different slant on things. They keep fresh as well.
Yeah, I always do that. Whenever I teach anything, I will always say, that this has come from, I learned this from, because it's just good manners, isn't it? To say that you've learned from, different people, and that you're standing on other people's shoulders as a teacher. No one's invented this stuff. We're just getting information from other people, and
we're just conduits.
Yeah, and most of the teachers that I've had in one way or another have been, a great influence on me. I've been very, very lucky. I've had a very good, sort of pathway in that way. So yeah, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you, reference somebody's greatness? I think that's the right thing to do, and I do that when I do my Saturday special. I think you may have spotted a few of those. Always, if I can remember, where it's come from, sure. I'll always, give reference to those people that have helped me and given me their knowledge, because I think that's the right thing to do.
100% it is, yeah. So you started with judo. It was kind of love at first sight with the martial arts, and then you continued judo for a little while, and then moved into other martial arts, I presume.
I did sort of Arki-Jitsu along the lines with Brian, and then I did a brief period of karate. Brief period was about 2 or 3 years, and then I was boxing. There was a boxing club just outside of Heathrow. I did some boxing, karate styles and systems. I didn't get into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu till I was probably around about 30, and I did a predominantly with no-gi for about 3 years. Yeah. And a variety of different systems. I say most recently with the Kali. The styles that I haven't done with an Arki-Jitsu background, I would like to have a little look at some Aikido at some point, just for the sort of I don't know. Can I use the word spiritual? I don't. But just for there's an essence to Aikido as well, that they seem to have something more about sort of the internal side of the art. My kung fu background and knowledge is non-existent. I've not been anywhere near Wing Chun or anything like that, which is why you're always helping me with trapping, brother.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm always running after you for the trapping. Although I have to say, I did an online assessment with Guru Aaron Davis recently.
Yeah.
And his words were, "I know you're not very happy with your trapping, Ian, but actually your trapping was okay." I was like, "Hey, bonus!"
No.
Yeah.
Well, if it's coming from Aaron, it's good stuff.
Really, but I'm always. I'm always looking. I'm always thinking. I mean, time constraints are tough, but also on a serious note, when you teach martial arts for a living, um, time is a very valuable thing because ultimately, when I'm teaching 8 or 9 adult classes a week, I guess, and then probably I think maybe 8 or 9 junior classes, and then a bunch of private lessons, which I do here.
Yeah.
So I do spend a lot of time teaching, and if you when because you should, when you do make the decision to try and find somebody that you can travel to learn from, that's expensive.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
very, very expensive because when I train, if I go to train with Steve Martin, who's absolutely awesome, by the way, he's an incredible practitioner of the art, an incredible instructor as well. So, thank you for your knowledge, Steve. But not that he's expensive, but giving up that time to
Sure.
not have classes or one-to-ones programmed in.
Yeah.
And that's something that's not a sacrifice, but that's something as a teacher, as an established teacher, that you really should think about
Yeah.
because, martial arts is a huge subject. You're going to spend a lifetime in my opinion, trying to learn all these different arts, and you're probably still not going to make
Surface. Yeah.
scratch the surface, of course, right? Um, so if you don't continue to be a teacher, martial arts will move past you very, very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And I see it all the time, actually. I see people all the time. I've spoken to other martial arts instructors about it too, and I've tried to sort of encourage them to consider being so. It's not something that's easy. It's not something that's convenient, and it's not something that's kind of cheap either. Because you're going to have a
No.
loss of income for that particular night. So, but that's the answer to it: is which is most important? Is it you teaching the classes in that particular evening or that particular weekend or that particular morning and earning your income, or
Yeah.
is it going to learn another art and growing and developing as a person instructor? And for me, it's growing in your art and developing, because
Sure.
if that part of your study is correct, if you're forever the student, well, they say always a student, sometimes a teacher, never a master. Quite right.
Yeah.
That part of your approach to your learning is good, then I think that really should sit on top of your teaching and the fact that you're a good student.
Yes.
Um, and I work really hard on that. So I'm forever looking. I wanted to. I considered getting back into the BJJ, but the knees, Dan.
Yeah.
Shoulder, Dan. Shoulder.
Yeah.
I'm still. Well, I'll never say never. I'm still considering that. But yeah, as I say, it's definitely something that I never plan to stop doing.
No.
Is turning up to places, behaving like a student, acting like a student, learning like a student, and being a student. Guru Bob Green and Rick Fay and all these guys that are absolute legends. We've got these. They're such a resource. They're
Yeah.
such a resource, and it's not a difficult thing to do, is it? Really, just set some time apart and
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
and go and learn. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's really important. Time goes quickly. You set yourself a plan, and I had a really good job. I had a proper job, and I was involved in HR for a local authority, and I governed a couple of services that had sort of 100 plus staff each, and was involved with the HR and hire and fire and all that sort of stuff. And it was a really good gig. It was well paid. It had a great pension and
Yeah.
holiday pay and sick pay and all that. But I've been teaching for 35 years. I was working during the day and off teaching martial arts
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
evening. And martial arts is my passion. Um, yeah, 8 or 9 years, 10 years ago, I can remember making the decision that I wanted to go back and teach full time. So I would have been in my late 40s.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought, this is a really serious decision, walking away from a proper job and a career that I'd built up,
Sure.
But thankfully, I married the right woman. My wife, Kobe, said, I fully support you. She knew that martial arts was my passion. It's who I am.
Yeah.
So, I quit my job and decided to go back and teach full time. And that's, I don't know, the planets aligned or something. And sort of looking back on the last 10 years, I've just sort of, in fact, I got interviewed about it by James O'Brien on LBC.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was interviewed by James O'Brien about it. I just think that, at the right time of my life, maybe, I wish I'd done it when I was younger, but I just went about it with that absolute determination. And then I've built this, very successful school. Kind of works a bit like a franchise, but
Yeah.
a sophisticated franchise. So I don't take instructors from outside the group. They're all homegrown. They've all got 10 years of experience.
Yeah.
And they're all off running their own branches and things like that. And I'm very blessed to be in the position that I'm in. Yeah.
Was there something that kind of triggered that move to go from, employment to self-employment and going, look, I'm going to jump in with both feet, or was it a gradual process?
Yeah, no, totally. Do you know what? We're going to keep the vibe positive, Dan. But actually, it was the death of my father.
Right.
Because my dad, who had this wonderful career and was a huge influence on me and a wonderful man. I was very blessed to have him as a father, and he died very suddenly one morning. And these things kind of affect your approach to life. I think when you have something like that happen, and you kind of think, well, and then I think that's what it was. I got to my late 40s and thought, well, teaching martial arts for a living is what I want to do. It's what I've always wanted to do. And, time and tide and all that. And I just thought, well, I don't want to miss the opportunity because time goes really quick. And I knew that, 10 years would go in a heartbeat. And I just thought, no, that's what I want to do. That's who I am. So I went for it. And, certainly no regrets at all. I live a very blessed life. I absolutely love what I do, which I hope comes across. And so far so good, as they say.
Excellent. And what was your student membership like when you made that full-time or that leap to full-time? You were
It was
600 members.
pretty healthy. No, it was pretty healthy.
Was it
Shout out to Clive
at
Elliott.
that point?
Clive Elliott and myself, we both started our classes in 1989. So whenever we meet, Clive and I, we're like, how bizarre that we're, the same sort of time. I started with 6 students.
Right.
And I've still got my little book where they paid 50 pence each.
Yeah.
And the hall was £6.
Yeah.
I've still got it. And I'd go back to teaching 6. I'd go back to doing that if something happened and that's how it worked out. Then I'd go back to doing that. But there's some really sophisticated stuff around at the moment. There's some really good support packages, things like Nest and things like that. And they're awesome. You know what I mean? They sort of show you how to business package things. There's a lot of guys out there that are business gurus that will guide us in how to go about things. But for me, it's one student at a time. It's treating each person as an individual, getting them in, giving them a fantastic class. I've got a retention rate which is about 83%. So
really
for every 100 people, it's a very good. That's a very good retention rate. And if you're looking at health clubs, you're looking at fitness clubs. Industry standards about 55. So or maybe
revolving door, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's pretty good. So you're doing something right when you do that. But it's just, I mean, we lose people. People contact you and say them. I'm not doing it anymore. Of course you do, because circumstances change.
Yeah.
And it peaks and it drops like everybody else. But I'm forever looking at process. I'm forever analysing. I'm forever looking at ways to improve things and improve people's experiences. I meet with my instructors who are a great receptive bunch, and we talk about how we can improve things. And we had a grading on Saturday, as I said, and we run our syllabus, and then we have a 10-round challenge at the end, and we do a 10 10 3-minute rounds with a minute in between.
Yeah.
And they're all sort of age groups are doing it. You know, we have this, let's say, lots of people there. And we have really experienced guys that have been in martial arts a long time. And we had 7-year-olds, you know, doing 10 rounds. Doing 10
Yeah, yeah,
rounds.
yeah, yeah.
And it's bizarre, but that's not a nice thing to do, 10 rounds. That's tough.
It
But
is.
if you, I kind of had this concept that I've got these kind of key principles as to how I run my school. And I stick to those principles. I don't retract from them. I focus on them all the time, and I'm always doing one of those key 5. And in situations like this, people say, "Well, you've got a successful school. What are those key 5 things, Ian?" And I say, "Well, if you think I'm going to tell you, you're crazy. I'm not going to
Yeah.
tell anybody what 5 are." But one of them is that I'll do something every day to improve something.
Okay.
So it can be a small thing. You know, it can be doing a bit of marketing, it can be doing a podcast.
Yeah.
It can be anything, but something every day. And then I think that sort of environment. I'm going to give you 2 now, not 1. And my sort of approach really to running the organisation is to challenge people. So you say we're going to do 10 rounds at the end of every grading. It's 3 minutes of time, you know. To put them on the spot, to, you know, put them in environments where perhaps they're not particularly comfortable,
Sure.
and to challenge them. But having challenged them, that it's not enough as a teacher just to say, well, I challenge my students, I teach them complex things, or I give them tough challenges. It's not enough just to challenge. You have to challenge, then you have to encourage. So you have
Yeah.
to be part of a mechanism that's going to say, you know, you're doing well, you know, and you need to guide them. And they're all individuals, remember. They're not as a group of people. We're all individual people. That's the difficult bit, to learn what makes people tick. There are some people in my organization that would love the idea of coming to Westwood Camp, or you know, coming to your place to learn from you. They'd love the idea. I say, look, we're going to do it. They go, oh my God, that's brilliant. There's other
Yeah.
people that just not want to travel and go into an environment where nobody knows them, and you know, so it's very much getting that that encouragement right, I think, with individuals.
Yeah.
And then reward at the end. So challenge, encourage, reward, and those rewards can be anything from, you know, something physical, you know, t-shirt, a belt, you know, something that's giving them recognition for the work that they've put in,
Yeah.
or maybe a well done and a handshake, and
Yeah. Pat the back.
you know, it doesn't have to be something, you know, big. It just has to be recognised when someone, you know, challenges themselves. When you encourage them and they achieve something, they need to be recognised for that. So yeah, so that's 2 out of the 5. Do something every day that improves your school, and then have that environment of challenge, encourage, and reward. That's 2. 3
Perfect.
left. I'm not giving you the other 3.
That's it. That's my fill. Yeah.
It'll be in the book.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Did these things kind of come naturally to you then, or do you think you took your experience from HR? Did you employ that into it? Was it a process of kind of trial and error? Yeah. How did you develop these processes? These systems?
Good spot, Dan. Good spot. I think we're all the sum total of our history, aren't we?
Yeah.
And certainly the experience within HR, you know, comes out. You know, I can hear myself sometimes, you know, and having that sort of interest in people. I don't think it comes naturally. I don't think anything comes naturally apart from breathing to all of us. Other than that, every skill has to be worked for.
Yeah.
But I'm vehemently passionate about what I do. I don't cut corners. I don't have the sort of that'll do attitude, you know, to anything. Everything's got to be, you know, I want the quality of what I do. I want the quality of my teaching to be high. I want the quality of my black belts to be high. I want the quality of the experience of mums and dads that are bringing children to the class, because those are the
Yeah.
people that you're talking to at the end of the day.
Oh.
I want everything to be good and high quality, and I don't cut corners. I don't bend the rules. I don't do anything that's, you know, not right. Where that comes from, I don't know, but I know it works.
Yeah.
So I continue to sort of stick with that. So yeah, good spot. I mean, probably that HR experience had something to do with it.
Definitely.
But I just, I love what I do, and I protect it, and I nurture it, and I grow it, and I keep doing it. And that's, leading me to be in this blessed position that I'm in, really.
Yeah, it's amazing. And obviously you've trained with so many good people as well. And that came from the start of your journey, I suppose, and being exposed to different martial arts
Mm.
from an early kind of, yeah, an early stage, I suppose. So what's been some of
Yeah.
the highlights of training with different instructors, do you think?
Oh wow. I mean, Guru Dan.
Obviously,
I mean,
yeah, we've got to talk about Andy and Guru Dan, yeah. Into the mecca
yeah.
of martial arts, really.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's something about Guru Dan that just shows you, I think, as an instructor, what perhaps is possible. That it's okay to be an incredible martial arts instructor with a depth of knowledge, which is just and if you've ever been in a room with Guru Dan, as I know you have yourself, it's
Yeah.
just it just
Education.
pushes you. Oh, someone once said to me about Guru Dan, they said he talks about 5 techniques, he shows you 8, and then he says go away and practice those 10.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That sums
um,
it up, yeah.
yeah, I mean, and I think Guru Dan's the experience with Guru Dan and others as well, and Rick Fay as well, Guru Rick Fay as well, is they kind of show you that it's okay to dedicate your life to it and to be as a sophisticated and an inspirational teacher as you can possibly be. It's okay to do that. It's okay to want to be a really sort of top level martial arts instructor.
Yeah.
But they've all
humble
given me,
and be nice and be kind and be
yeah,
human about it as well.
of course, yeah. Well, that's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
one thing, isn't it, that you ever notice about really good teachers, that they tend to be very humble people.
They do. Yeah.
They're not sort of arrogant and brash people. They're not.
No.
They're very humble.
Yeah.
They're very generous people. But
Down to earth.
certainly I've got something from all of them. I mean, I've picked up very very small things that I've picked up. I can share one with you if you like. One of my Eskrima instructors, JT Jeremy Thomas. He would teach a class, and he had this thing where he would be wherever he was on a mat, whether he was on left or right or that end or this end, he would name check people. So you'd be working away, and suddenly you'd hear this voice from the other end of the room that would say, that's great, Ian. That looks really
Yeah.
good. And he not in long detail, but he'd kind of just shout a couple of pointers to, or we wouldn't shout, but you'd hear his voice with a couple of pointers. And I always remember thinking that's really great, because you can be in a room full of people and not think that and there you go, challenge, encourage. That's the encourage part of it. And so I picked that up from him, apart from some really cool warriors Eskrima from the Abner Passar lineage. Apart from that, I picked up that from him. It's a small thing. But I think it starts, doesn't it, with having that question, how can I improve my own, personal, how can I, and so that's kind of how I approach it. What can I take? Well, we said it, didn't we? It's a cliche, absorb what is useful, right? But it's true.
Yeah. Some
It's
blokes
true.
said it. Yeah, I don't know.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, as long as
And
you get
so,
something, and whether that could be a physical thing, as you said, it could be an amazing new drill that you can put into practice, or something that's really practical, or something you hadn't thought of before, or it could be a teaching style, or it could be a way of interacting with people, or a way of running the school, or something like that. You look at the MKG, and that's probably what I got most from Guru Rick, like just that family feel, that not taking yourself too seriously, making all the training fun, etc. And then on top of that, you've got this huge amount of knowledge that comes from Muay Thai, Kali, JKD, Jun Fan, etc., etc., etc. So you build it all up and you layer it, and you go, look, you've got the makings of a fantastic school here, where people are having fun. You learn the stuff that comes from the very best source, really, from Guru Dan, and then you go, okay, but people are having fun with it as well. It's not a serious environment where you're getting yelled at Cobra Kai style, like, silence, quiet. It's like, no, everyone's just having fun.
That worked back in the 70s. That worked back in the 70s. we're not in the 70s anymore. You know, it's
Nope.
very old school, all that sort of stuff. And you know, we're not in that environment now. You know, discipline's not a dirty word, but it's definitely a wholesome word.
Yeah,
And that sort of day of barking instructions at people and all that, that's all gone. You
it's
know,
gone.
and
Yeah.
thank God. But that's all gone. You know, and to say have some sophistication in what you do and give people a, you know, it's all about exceeding people's expectations, isn't it? You know, when they come along, because the public have got sometimes a very strange perception of what martial arts actually is,
Yeah.
especially if they haven't done it. You know, I know that from the phone calls that I've taken for the
Sure.
last 35 years. You know, I want my son to be a black belt by Christmas and that sort of stuff. And so, but that's not their fault. You know, that's created by them watching movies, or that's not their fault. But the reality of it is, as you well know yourself, sir, you know, it's hard work, it's dedication, it's investing in yourself,
Yeah.
and it's time. You know, you've got to be willing to put the time in. You've got to be willing to travel. Progress and development and convenience do not go hand in hand. You know, accept it. They don't go hand in hand. If you're going to progress and you're going to learn and you're going to develop, it is not going to be convenient.
No.
Doesn't work like that. So it's about putting yourself out there, really. And I'm going to continue to do that. I booked in many, bits and pieces with yourself. We were over
Yeah.
in Italy together, weren't we?
We were.
Getting drunk, getting drunk.
Enjoying the
And training
wine, enjoying the cultural experience of drinking wine
We
in a
did.
vineyard. I think would be a technical
I've still got
term
that
there.
bottle for you. I've still got that bottle for you. Yeah. But those experiences are gold dust, aren't they? And sort of learning from these people is brilliant, you know. Yeah.
And that's it. The community side of it as well is huge in the martial arts. There's something that you've obviously got with the 600 members, etc. But again, you go back to the MKG and you think, look at what community they built. You've got people that will travel literally across different countries to go and train and to socialize with the people. And the training obviously is a huge part of it, but also the socializing and kind of seeing people and having that drink after and having a bit of food and chatting martial arts and nerding out with a bunch of people that don't think it's nerdy is fantastic.
Absolutely. And we all want to belong, don't we? You know, we all want to belong. We all need help, all of us. Because if you're not, I tell my juniors all the time, if you're not in an environment where you're asking someone for help on a regular basis, you're in the wrong environment.
Yeah.
So if you're pushing and stretching and reaching for something, you need help. You need a guru to help you. And we all want to belong. We all want to be accepted. But, I can remember phoning my wife shortly after joining the MKG family. And actually, I must confess, I didn't join the MKG family. I turned up. People thought I had because I was turning up all the time.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually formally join as an instructor until the end of last year.
Right.
And I think, well, not for any reason other than the fact that I was enjoying the knowledge, and when I felt that sort of acceptance by the group, then the time was right, and that's how it was. But I can remember phoning my wife, and I remember saying to her, these are my people. These are my people. I feel like meeting people like yourself, because we've got a lot in common. We've got a lot in common. We both run schools, and so it's great, really, to have that on a sort of regular, aside from the knowledge, which is just, Guru Linda and Guru Rick is just unbelievable, and Guru Aaron as well. It's an incredible experience. But it's that sense of family, isn't it? And having that belonging, which is really, a huge part of it. You're right. Yeah.
What we're all looking for, as you say. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
So how did you start to develop your school then? So obviously you had it as a solo one-man band for a little while, and then when did you decide to then take the step up to franchising and going to different areas, etc., and starting to develop kind of a team?
I think that's kind of happened organically, really. It's kind of happened almost on its own, really. I was obviously teaching a long time, so as I said, none of my instructors come from outside of the school. They're all sort of homegrown. They get that opportunity. We've got Chris Adams over in the Isle of Man at the moment. He's running a branch over there. It just kind of happened. Some of these guys sort of progressed to black belt and to that sort of level. And then sort of said, I think certainly once you've been in martial arts a long time and you have a really good sound knowledge, you need to teach.
Yeah.
Because see one, do one, teach one, right? Because it does That's one thing again about Guru Dan is that he says, if you really want to get this down, go back to your country, go
Go and
back to
teach
where you're
it.
from,
Yeah,
teach it. Yeah, go and teach
yeah.
it, which is unusual because a lot of instructors say, "Oh, you can't teach my stuff. You can't teach my stuff."
No, no, well, hold it close. Yeah,
The opposite. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, so they come up, guys have come up through the ranks, and then they approach and say, "I'd like to do it." And then financially, this is not all about making me a millionaire. It doesn't work like that. So there's no license fees or anything like that.
yeah,
There's just a financial agreement in terms of clothing and memberships and gradings and things like that. And so that's all sort of done with them. And I guess it's time because it's 35 years,
yeah,
and it's being patient with it, and it's believing in it. It's being truthful about it. It's not trying to cut corners or because you can with social media you can create all sorts of impressions of all sorts of things, can't you?
yeah,
And I think what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the soul, the belief and the love of what I'm doing to come across to people.
yeah,
And I'm not ashamed. I put myself out there. I'm not ashamed to do that. And like I said, it's building it one. It's building it one student at a time. But that said, we have marketing strategies. We do. We have people involved in that. A wonderful designer, Suki Baines, who helps us with our design work.
yeah.
We've just migrated a lot of our admin over to Jot form.
Okay,
So
yeah,
yeah, we've just so all of the stuff's being done online as well. So I think it's yeah, it's hard work. It is hard work. It's not something that's easy, and it takes hard work. It takes dedication. It takes focus, and it takes time.
mm,
Um, and as I say, the time moves quickly. But a lot of people starting out, they'll throw a lot. It seems to me that they
mm,
throw a lot of um, focus on the marketing side of things as opposed to the content of their classes.
yeah,
So it's a lot of, where you and I might go away for a week and learn about, Kali and,
yeah,
and, and study the art of Kali together. I'm sure that there are people that are going away for a few days and learning about marketing. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing
no,
wrong with that. But this is a package. Okay, this is about getting your message out there, but then having the quality. And for me, well, it's worked for me. So having the sort of quality and the heritage,
yeah,
behind what you do as well, and loving what you do, and being prepared to take the knocks too, because it's not been easy. It's not been plain sailing. COVID was
yeah. An
COVID was a
interesting
nightmare. I
time.
went,
Yeah,
I went, yeah. Well, we all took the knocks there, didn't we? But I went down to
mm,
104 members, and I literally saw my school that I built up for a long time. I literally
just
saw it
crumble.
melting away on the
Yeah,
screen, and there was some difficult times there. But
mm,
here we are. We
yeah,
I once said in a difficult moment to my wife, I said, Kobe, my wife, I said, this is gonna bring us down to, almost starting again.
mm,
And I said, I'm not sure that I've got it in me to build it up again. I'm not sure. I've done it once,
yeah.
I'm not sure I've got it in me to do that again. Evidently, I did have.
Evidently, yeah. Suck it up, get
So
up. Yeah, that's it.
yeah, we all suffered during that time, though, didn't we?
But I think
So
now is a great time. I think there's been a resurgence now in kind of that community thing where people want to now be a part of something and be active. I think having
yeah,
had that, because it was only well, 4 or 5 years ago, really, wasn't it? Where we were in kind of the thick of it. And it's
it
not
was.
a huge amount of time, and it seems to have gone so quickly.
Well, there you
And
go,
I
because
think
time
people,
does.
yeah, and I think people now want that community more, and they want to have that physical touch and that thing, and you miss
I
out
think
by it.
so. And,
And then
and
having
having
the school back open is like, oh, great. And
absolutely,
then,
yeah, and having a product that you work on. You are the product. You are the product. I am the product.
yeah,
So investing in that product in terms of learning and development. There's an old saying, isn't there? When the tide comes in, it lifts all the ships, and
yeah,
it's true. I mean, in my area, we've got lots of martial arts clubs. We've got some great clubs. There's some good clubs out there. But you just concern yourself with what you're doing. You focus on it, and for me, you build it one student at a time. And
yeah,
I think some of these guys out there, they want to put out these marketing plans, they want to get leads, and and all that's great. I'm not dissing it, all that's great, and it's a modern way of doing it for sure. But they want to get the numbers in. They just want to pull people in. Now that's great. That's great if you do that stuff, and suddenly you get 30 kids turn up to your class. But it's keeping them. They say personality opens doors, but character keeps it open, right? It's keeping them. It's making sure that the product is there and that people are going to have a good time, that they're all challenged, they're all encouraged, and they're all rewarded.
That's it.
And once you've got that product right, then you need to be shouting about it, and being humble too. I make mistakes. I make mistakes. I've tried things over the years that haven't worked, and I've had periods where you lose people, and then you wonder what's going on there, and you sort of look at it and think, well, why have people left? And
Readjust.
You've got to go through all those experiences. If you're trying something and it's not working, try something else.
Exactly.
But
just keep going, and eventually find a system that works. If you obviously have.
Yeah, be prepared to take the knocks as a martial arts instructor. Be humble. I think you said that earlier on about humility. It will certainly make you humble.
It's the most important thing. Yeah, we're all just learning. That's what I always say. We're all just learning still. We're just maybe, if you're an instructor, maybe just a little bit further ahead in certain areas. Yeah. But then also we've got people in that, we've got students that are 3rd degree black belt in karate. We've got people that have got a great background in Muay Thai, things like that. Yeah. So, I'm going to use them as well and be like, guys, there's a whole wealth of experience and knowledge here as well. Use it. I'm not everything. Yeah, I run the classes and it's my school, but I've got black belts as well now under my school. So I might, again, use them.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? Yeah. Why wouldn't you? Yeah.
Talk to me about your seminars that you are doing then, which I saw, and I eagerly jumped on that day as soon as I saw it and went, "Yep, I'll have you down."
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so difficult time. My cancer touches the lives of so many. We've heard that, haven't we, over the years? And then suddenly it touches yours, and the experience of seeing people that are close to you go through these experiences is just it's heartbreaking. But it's all about remaining positive. It's all about taking it to this terrible disease and doing your best to sort of overcome it. My mum, God love her, she's in her 80s and she's doing very well. She's had some problems with her health over the last few years, but she was diagnosed at the end of last year. And then my sister, who beat breast cancer, I think about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, maybe a bit more, and it's come back. So both my mum and my sister are battling with it at the moment. We breed the women tough in our family. Do you know what I mean? So they're going through all the treatments as well. Especially my sister. Actually, my sister's in chemotherapy today. God love her. So I don't know. I think my martial arts experience has taught me, do something rather than do nothing. Do you know what I mean? Do something. And if I was a doctor or if I was a surgeon, I'd be able to help in that way. But I'm not. I'm a martial arts instructor. So my family and I did the Shine Walk through the streets of London back in September, raised nearly £1,000 for that.
Amazing.
And we walked for 26. If you've ever done a marathon, or anyone that's listening to this, if you've ever done a marathon, I'm an absolute awe. The respect that I have for complete strangers that have run 26 miles, because when you walk it,
it's mental.
There was like 30,000 people did it through the streets of London overnight. Anyway,
cool.
So this came up, and I just kind of thought, well, I want to do something, and that's the skill that I've got. So I just sort of put it out there and said, look, I'll come and do it. Donation, big or small. I sort of kicked it off with Cambridge University. They had me over to do some striking with those guys a couple of months back. And then we've got some. And I don't know why universities. It's the martial arts clubs at university. Portsmouth are having Portsmouth University as well. They're having a look as well. But no, I'm happy to do anything. I'll come and do a nice eclectic mix, and I'll say something informative, and I'll say something interesting, and I'll say something funny, and any donation really, just to really cancer's a really crappy thing, and perhaps if we all pull together as a community and focus on the things that really are threats to us, apart from some of the other stuff that you perhaps read in the media and what have you. But if we all pull together, we all might be able to do something about it. So that's the plan, really. I've got a nice eclectic mix. I'm happy to travel. And I'm here. Give me a shout. Any donation is fine, small or big or otherwise. Do something positive with the tools that I've got, really.
Perfect. And how can people get in touch with you then if they're interested in booking a seminar, if they're interested in getting you down to their club?
Yeah, well, I'm all over the usual platforms. It's IANGAULDIE. And they can if they go to the website, which is www.combatacademy.co.uk. My email address is on there, or phone number is on there somewhere. They just get in touch and we'll have a chat. And I'll come visit, no problem.
Perfect. Cool. Well, thank you, Ian. I will let you get off. And then it's always a pleasure. Obviously, it's always great to catch up with you at the MKG events, and we'll definitely be having you down at Empower at some point to come and teach.
It would be my honour, but thank you very much for having me on, Dan. It's been a great honour to talk to you today. Thank you.
It's been my absolute pleasure, buddy. Thank you. I'll link everything. So I'll link all your contact details in the show notes, etc. So people do get in touch, do book it, do something good. And also, Ian is a fantastic martial artist, so I highly recommend him to come up and do a seminar at yours and kick cancer's ass too.
Yes, sir.